Okay, hello and welcome back. We are in Sefer Yehoshua over here in the sixth parak, and we are gonna tackle Parak Chaf Aleph today. Bayach rimu es kol asher be'ir me'ish ve'ad isha minar ve'ad zokin. They consecrated everything in the city, from man to woman, from young to old. Ve'ad shor v'seh, ox, sheep, v'chamar, donkey, lefi cherev, by the sword. In other words, there was a ban on everything in the city. They said you're not allowed to take from anything. The question is why. So we're going to be doing a deep dive over here. Multiple reasons why they weren't allowed to take from anything at all. Why specifically on this battle? What is unique about this battle? Answer number one, and these are in the Malam Loes. Yericho was conquered on Shabbos. Someone who purposely, willingly violates Shabbos, whatever he did on Shabbos that he wasn't allowed to do, you're never allowed to derive benefit from it. It's called Maisa Shabbos. Right? Now, the Jews, they conquered Yericho by Hashem's explicit commandment. So therefore, it wasn't considered that they violated Shabbos. It wasn't considered Maisa Shabbos because Hashem told them to destroy Yericho and conquer it on Shabbos, as we discussed in the fourth pasuk in this parak. Furthermore, as Hashem provided the miracle. They didn't do anything. But at the end of the day, it took place on Shabbos, and therefore it was fitting that it would be forbidden on Shabbos. Right? Now, even though it's permissible for them to continue and conclude the victory on Shabbos, right? Nevertheless, they showed that they didn't want to derive any benefit from something that was gained on Shabbos. Even though the halacha allows the desecration of Shabbos under special circumstances, for example, let's say a woman's in labor. Some people try their most not to have to veil themselves as that. Try not to get into that. There's actually a whole story on this topic. The pious and righteous wife of Rabbi Shmuel Sofer, who went into labor late Friday afternoon, and she saw that the sun was setting in her room. She became worried. She said, Hashem, please spare anyone in the community from having to desecrate Shabbos on my behalf. And she quickly sent a message to the chief rabbi of Frankfurt, requesting that he would delay the recitation of Kabbalah Shabbos, which brought in Shabbos until the last moment permitted her to do so. He read the note and said, "This woman is going to give birth to a tremendous leader." A few minutes before Shabbos came in, she gave birth to a boy who was named Moshe. He later became known as the Chassam Sofer. Amazing story. Rabbi Aryeh Levine was once concerned in his lifetime that if his death happened on the eve of Shabbos, it would cause people to maybe desecrate Shabbos. When he passed away on Friday, the Chevra Kadisha, the burial society, wished to delay the funeral for several hours so that they would have enough time to dig the grave. Since the ground was hard and stony, they wanted to make sure that they would have enough time, so they wanted to delay it. When they stood by the entrance of the cemetery debating, the watchman of the cemetery came over to tell a strange story. He said a few years earlier, there was a rabbi that came to me in privacy, Rabbi Aryeh, and asked, prepare the grave next to the burial plot of his wife. Dig up the earth and turn it over so it would be broken and soft. So he said, why would you want me to do a weird thing like that? The rabbi said, who could predict the timetable of a man's life? Maybe I'm destined to depart from this world on Friday, and people attending the funeral will be unable to reach their homes before Shabbos has begun. Do me a favor. Dig the grave like I asked you. Let it be ready. Without letting anyone catch sight of it, he fulfilled the request. This wish also was granted to those who came to pay him the last honor, that they should be able to return home with plenty of time. Keeping Shabbos is like keeping the whole Torah. Is actually in the Limud Lamed. That's reason one, Shabbos. Reason two, Yericho is the first city in Israel to be conquered. It's considered like Bikudim, the first fruits, or Challah, the first dough. It has to be consecrated, belongs to Hashem. One reason to indicate that the victory was clearly from Hashem is by not touching the spoils of the Yericho. They were giving a form of truma, of bikurim, of first fruits to Hashem. Bechor, firstborn is to Hashem, it's sacred. Orla, first fruits after the first 3 years. It's all first. What's the reason for Orla? This is actually based on what the Ravid says in Perek Yud and Maseches Tamid. What's the reason for Orla? Consecrating the first fruits of the trees to Hashem, bikurim. Adam ate from the tree, the fruit of the tree of knowledge. So man had to make amends for this sin by waiting 3 years before benefiting from the fruits of a tree. We thereby acquires the virtues of self-control which help us fulfill many of the mitzvahs. It's one interesting idea. Reason three, Yericho is different than other cities of Canaan because it had more idolatry than others. It was therefore decreed that it had to be destroyed. This is similar to an Ir Hanidachas. If you have a whole city that is involved with idolatry, everything's got to go. Get completely destroyed. It's totally corrupted. And it was prohibited even to rebuild. Its destruction was to remain an eternal reminder of the obligation to banish the idolatry from us. The Rambam provides another reason. Going back to the Orla, he says that this mitzvah is more effort, is one more effort to remove us or attempt to remove us from idol worship and sorcery. In the olden times, sorcerers, they used to implement certain methods when a tree was planted. They said this is going to cause it to produce fruit more quickly, and when the fruits appeared, they were offered to the idols. So we didn't want a Jew imitating their deeds. The Torah therefore forbade him to use any fruit which matured during the first 3 years. Look at the Vayikra Rabba Chafei Beis. The Barbanel explains another reason. He said that there was evil associated with the spoils of Yericho. If the people had taken from the spoils and then been successful, they might have been inclined to attribute their success to the effectiveness of the gods of Yericho. Putting it all and saying that it's all forbidden, all the spoils, one could never say that the success was from the spoils. They didn't want to profit from anything that was related to idolatry. There's a story with Rabbi of Zishlin that on the eve of Sukkot it was very difficult to get the Hadassim, or the Arba Minim, on Sukkot. The Hadassim, the myrtle branches. One of the rabbi's disciples volunteered to acquire it from the square of his hometown. Not the square, excuse me, the head official. So he set off on his journey and he went straight for the mansion. And he recognized him when he got there. Welcome him in his house. What brought him? He explained his reasoning for coming. He said, I'd love to help, but my gardeners just finished cutting and trimming my trees. I don't believe there are any myrtle branches that you could use. He noticed that the young man was very distressed and offered to help him in different ways. He said, "Look, I have a friend who has a large, beautiful house. Yeah, I'm sure he'll have something. Wait there, I'll send my messenger, he'll get you." He said, "Okay, fine, great." He waited, messenger returned, and oh, there they were, the Hadassim. So he thanked him, went back, went back to the rabbi, eager to relay the big news, handed them over to the Rebbe, and he said, he turned white, the Rebbe said, and he said, "Remove these from my house immediately. They're unfit. You can't say a bracha on them." He said, "Why not? Strange behavior. I can't say a bracha on them." He went, he went back to the high official's house. He tried to figure out what was going on. So he respectfully asked if he could go to the higher official's friend's house and see the source of where these were grown. So he acquiesced. He went to high official's friend's house, the estate, see where they were cut, and lo and behold, they were growing by a place of idolatry. There were idols there. His Rebbe, he was able to sense when he held those hadassim. He didn't want to benefit from them because he sensed the idolatry. When Hashem selected the mountain which the Torah was going to be given on, a quarrel broke out with the mountains. Each one said, "No, the Torah should be on me." Hashem rejected all of them. Why are you fighting? You're all defective. You have idols on top of each of you. Har Sinai is low, never served as a place of idol worship. That's going to be the one where the Torah is going to be given. Another reason, Yericho is conquered by Hashem's strength alone. No effort by the Jewish people. Since they didn't fight to conquer it, they weren't entitled to a share in the spoils. Belonged to Hashem. Another reason, part of the commandment of conquering the land of Canaan was that the inhabitants are going to be totally destroyed. If they were allowed to take spoils, they might become involved in looting, and some of them might escape. So Yericho was the first of the cities to be conquered. It said nothing's going to be taken. Even though the temptation of overlooking this obligation existed in the conquest of other cities as well, it wasn't as great. Which means it still applied to other cities, but it wasn't as great. The temptation. The conquest of Yericho was going to set a precedent and establish the importance of purifying the land by destroying the idolatry and evil. Another answer, they wanted to strike terror in the hearts of everyone else who remained in Israel. Lastly, Yehoshua followed the example of his teacher Moshe by totally destroying Yericho. When the other people on the other side of the Jordan attacked the Jews in the time of Moshe, the Jews prayed to Hashem to help overcome them. They swore that if they would be victorious, they would destroy all the cities of all the Canaanites and sanctify the spoils to Hashem. Hashem heard their prayer and gave them victory. And they in turn fulfilled their oath. Now when they stood ready to conquer Yericho, Yehoshua said, "Up, they have to take up that oath again and not benefit from it at all." In the next coming up sessions, we're going to wrap up this parak.